Hello and welcome to Wolfman Gaming. This is my Uncharted 4 Crushing Difficulty walkthrough, and this is chapter 17, also known as For Better or Worse. And this video is part 1 out of 2, because I decided to divide this chapter into 2 for a few different reasons. It just got got below the 40-minute limit. The video in its entirety was, I think it's around 38 minutes or something. But there are two big fights in this chapter. The first one is in relation to us trying to steal back our Jeep. And the second one is the dreaded elevator fight. And I assume that a lot of people have had problems with the elevator fight. God knows I did. Because I think a lot of people think that the first fight in chapter 20 is the absolute hardest in the game. And I'm not one to really disagree with that, because it is a really hard fight. One of the absolute hardest fights in the entire Uncharted series. But the elevator fight here in chapter 17 is by far a close fucking second. And when I started recording this walkthrough, or when I was recording this walkthrough, the elevator fight actually caused me a lot of more trouble and a lot of more grief than the shipyard or the ship graveyard fight in chapter 20 did. I don't know why, or actually I know why, or I know why it caused me a lot of grief, and that is actually the second part of the elevator. Because the first part, when the Jeep is going up and Elena is stuck in the middle of the elevator and you have to kill enemies trying to circle around you. That is a really hard part. Don't get me wrong. That fight is about knowing the spawns and trying to get the drop on them. But the second part, when you're getting to the waterfall, when you have reached the checkpoint, thank fuck that there's a checkpoint in that fight. If there hadn't been one, this walkthrough would never have been made. Actually, I think because the second part of that fight, when you reach the waterfall, when I was editing this walkthrough, I realized that fight only takes like 3 or 4 minutes, but it took me 90 minutes to get a successful run. It took me about 45 minutes to realize or to get a good strategy going. And then it took me another 45 minutes to not aim like a complete dimwit and actually start killing enemies. But the reason I divided this into two, I've been going on for quite some time now about that fight. The reason I decided to divide this into two is that I want to put the first fight where we're supposed to steal the Jeep back in one video, and I'll put that in the second video. Just so if anyone is looking for the solution to the second fight, it's easier if it's at the beginning of a video. And I have done this previously. I did it in The Last of Us, actually, on chapter 4, I think it's called. Or I think it is chapter 4, Pittsburgh. Because the hardest fight in that entire game, almost, is the courtyard in Pittsburgh. Anyone who's played that game knows exactly which fight I mean. And the strategy I used in that was not my own. Actually, it's a strategy I found online. And I gave full credit to the creator in my video, because give credit where credit is due is, in my opinion, that's the right thing to do. But that strategy was too great to just skip. And anyway, where was I? Yes, I divided this into two, just so the first fight is in this video and the second fight is in the second video. Will be in the second video when I post it. But the sequence coming up where we're supposed to steal back the Jeep, there is a trophy, I think, for stealing back the Jeep without killing any enemies. And if you're going through this game on crushing and you're trying to unlock that trophy, let me save you a lot of grief, because that is probably not gonna happen. Because in my opinion, there is no way in hell you can steal back the Jeep and not kill anyone and get out of there alive. No way, Jose. No way, mister.
Nice move.
Because these enemies, I've talked about that a lot. Enemies are really attentive and they have an insane damage output on this difficulty. So what I'm gonna do in this section is I'm gonna kill a few enemies. I'm gonna do this stealthily, and I'm gonna take out what I think is the minimum amount to get out of this area alive. On Explorer difficulty, you can steal a Jeep and just hang around for a few minutes if you want to. The only problem is that Elena may kill someone, and that will negate the trophy, because that is something you need to understand. Because you're supposed to steal this Jeep and no one gets killed, so you can't run anyone over and Elena can't kill anyone. That's the biggest problem you will face if you do this on Explorer difficulty. That Elena may get a bit trigger happy and start shooting, and then you'll probably have to do a do-over. But since this is crushing, I'm not gonna go for that trophy. I can't remember even what it's called. I think it's called Gone in 60 Seconds or something. Something like that. But instead, I'm gonna kill a few guys and I'm gonna do it as stealthily as possible. And now I'm waiting for that guy down there on my right, because I want him to get a bit closer so I can take him out. Also, if you're too early with swinging around there, he may notice you and things will start kicking off and you will be dead. Actually. Because there are quite a few enemies in this area, and there are also 2 heavies. And we're gonna stealth kill both of those, so they won't pose too much of a problem. The only critical part getting past is this sequence, or this section. Because there is one guy over there, he came very close to spotting me, and you may have seen a guy in a white shirt behind that little rock wall. Always keep an eye on which way those 2 are facing. Because if you get really unlucky, they will swing around, they will spot you, and you're gonna have to redo this entire sequence. But as soon as they have their backs turned towards you, we can continue scaling this wall. And here is the first heavy. So we're just gonna sneak up close to him and pull him off. Very easy. Then we have a sniper heavy up there in the tower. And I got a little bit lucky here, because over on the right side you can see a guy in a red cap. He needs to be taken out as well, or I will take him out. And I got a little bit lucky, because you cannot go around that corner and take him out. That is an impossibility, I think, because there is also one of those red-capped fellas over there on the right side by a turret. So if you try to go for the closest guy, he will probably spot you. So I was thinking about how I was to approach this, but since I kicked off the second heavy, this guy decided to go around the corner, which worked beautifully, because then I can jump down and do a stealth kill on him. I don't think it's absolutely essential to take him out, it only makes this a little bit easier. And now, in all honesty, this is also a little bit luck based. I managed to get through this on my first try. When I got as far as the Jeep, because sometimes I got a little bit unlucky and got caught going for the Jeep. But as soon as I got to it, I did it first attempt, which was really nice. But step on the gas and get out of there as fast as you absolutely can. Because as you could see, people start firing at you really quickly, and if you haven't taken out all the guys I did before going for it, you will probably, I'm not gonna say definitely, but you will probably not survive. But the good part about that sequence is that the checkpoint is just before it. You saw a little transition right there, probably. Because it took me a few tries to get it down. First I tried actually just going for the Jeep, tucking my balls, heading straight for it, not killing anyone. And I got murked the very second I got into it. So that's how I know you probably won't make it on crushing if you don't kill some guys.
So why do you think Sam
And
didn't
that-
come straight to you after racing?
I'm a bit divided on my a bit conflicted on how I feel about that, because I think that going for some of these stealth things should be possible even on the highest difficulty.
This one works as well.
It should be hard, but it should be doable. But stealing that Jeep and getting away, it doesn't feel doable at all. I don't know if it's even possible to do it. Probably not. I've tried quite a few times, not only on this run, but on my first time I played through this on Crushing. I tried it as well, and it didn't work that time either. I think I actually did it on normal when I did my successful run, or maybe it was Explorer. Probably Explorer. Just to make it as easy as possible. And now we're gonna do some platforming. And this part is really easy. You just attach your wire to that big, what's it called? Wooden pole? It's not a pole. Pillar. Pillar was the word I was looking for. And of course, as always, there is a conveniently placed wooden box on wheels. And I'm quite amazed. That type of wheels that are on, like, I think it's called a pivot. I'm not quite sure that they were invented when Henry Avery and his jolly bunch of pirates went through this place. So I'm a bit curious, who placed all these wooden boxes around this area? Or throughout this game? If anyone has a theory, please let me know in the comments. Would be one of those fun things to discuss. It's probably the same guy that paints all the climbable ledges yellow or white, depending on which of these games you're playing. And also fun, I remember in The Lost Legacy, the expansion to this game, which almost became a full-length single-player game in itself. It is a bit shorter, but not a lot shorter than any other Uncharted game. There they are, a bit self-aware, and you move one of those pivoted or wheeled boxes, and then Nadine and Chloe decide to, let's never do that again. And I like that self-awareness in video games. Because I've been playing Far Cry 5, and in the tutorial part you have to climb a radio tower. This is also something I've talked about before, I think. And when you do it, your AI friend tells you over the intercom that you will never have to do that again. But that concludes the first part of this chapter, and I want to thank you very much for watching, and I will see you again in my next video. So until next time, this is the Wolfman signing off.